fly off his head. "That's less than I gave the dame who brought it in." Do you know why she didn't redeem it? He had a sudden doubt about the mechanics of the machine. "It was her father's. Fergus Tunn, the poet. FBI tagged him for writing Nazi propaganda. They stuck him in a booby hatch upstate. She pawned it to keep him in straw to weave baskets. It was in all the papers." There it was again, that accusatory coda, "it was in all the papers." The uninformed were the second-class citizens of the post-war world. "When did this happen?" "Last year sometime." "Last year sometime I was in Brussels waiting for my orders to ship home. If it made the papers there, it was in French, or Flemish, which no one speaks 100 yards outside the borders. 30. 50's the price. Comes with a case, pebbled black fabric with chromium latches. It's a quality item." Jacob wished he'd worn his uniform and medals. They had a wizard effect, or had before the parades on Fifth Avenue lost their novelty. His suit was the one he'd worn to basic training, and it was out of fashion even then. But it had fit. Now it hung loose around the belly and cinched tight at the shoulders. Can't a veteran get a break? A tongue came off a tooth with a sharp snick. "Vets! Spoiled buggers." "Spoiled?" "Sure! All them free ham steaks and gasoline to burn, while us home fronters had to hoard stamps to buy bologna and drive clear out to Coney Island for a little sun, which I think was rationed too. Now you want a deal just 'cause you wasn't smart enough to dodge the draft? I ask you." "Just for that 10, you son of a bitch." Jacob scooped out his Army .45 and slammed it on the counter. The muscles in the proprietor's face shut down. He groped under the counter and lifted a short-barreled revolver into line with Jacob's chest. "This is New York, Joe. The milkman packs iron." He put away the pistol. He'd packed it for muggers. He hadn't expected to need it indoors, even in that neighborhood. The revolver vanished. "Next time I call the cops, four-flusher." The buzzer let him out, blowing a raspberry. Jacob drank 6 jiggers of 4 Roses in a joint down the street called Ted's Last Chance. It was of a piece with its surroundings, plopped between a check-cashing place and a Salvation Army store that smelled like old gym socks. Dead fighters struck old-fashioned stances in fly-blown frames behind the bar. The juke kept playing "I'll Never Smile Again." Sots blubbered in their Schlitz. After last call, when the only lights burning in the pawn shop were the little Christmas bulbs at the back to discourage burglars, Jacob threw a brick through the window and ran away with the Remington under his arm. He almost tossed a sawbuck into the vacant spot, but he might as well have left a card, and the alarm was clanging at his heels. He'd pulled a gun on a civilian and robbed a legitimate place of business. He was a fugitive. His name was Jacob Heppleman. He was 29 years old, unmarried but no virgin, and thanks to the war was in as good a physical condition as he'd ever been or was ever likely to be. He was a writer, or had been before Pearl. Although he'd written a good deal about the sort of person who threw bricks through windows and snatched what was on the other side, he'd always dismissed them as freaks of nature, career crooks, or wretches driven by ignorance or bad company into a life of crime. Fellows with broken noses who doubled all their negatives and ended their sentences with prepositions. Plot devices. This was the first criminal act of his life. It left him mortified, as if he'd been caught masturbating by the rabbi. But 3 blocks away, with no police whistles in pursuit, no sirens, no warning shots into the air, none of the tricks he employed on paper to goose up suspense, he slowed to a stroll, shifting the weight of the Remington under his other arm to rest its mate. He might have been taking home a legitimate purchase. "No thanks, don't bother to wrap it. I don't have far to go." It was a fine fall evening, geese squawking in Central Park. No reason for them to map out their migration just yet. It made a man sanguine. Petty theft! What was that? It wasn't as if anything he'd fought for still applied.